I'm joined today by Ravi Parmar, Minister of Forests, Randene Neill, Minister of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, Kevin Dunbar, Executive Director of Emergency Response from the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Cliff Chapman, Director of Wildfire Operations, BC Wildfire Service, Connie Chapman, Executive Director of Water Management from the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, Natasha Cowie, Hydrologist, River Forecast Center, and Jeremy Oden, Deputy Director of Emergency Management from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. We're here today to provide highlights and an update on wildfire and drought risks and share information on preparing for potential hazards in the upcoming days. In BC, we've had a relatively fortunate summer, despite some intense fires that have impacted some communities. Currently in BC, there is one evacuation order in place for the Fort Nelson First Nation, with two active evacuation alerts in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District and the Linton First Nation. I want to acknowledge how distressing it must be for the people in the Linton area with a fire that started outside of the village yesterday. We have good communications with the First Nation and local government, and crews are working hard to respond to the fire. While we have been fortunate to have some cooler weather lately, warming summer temperatures and ongoing drought means that much of BC is at heightened risk for wildfires. Now is the time to take action and put a plan in place before there is an emergency. As we make plans for the long weekend, I encourage everyone to take some time to make a household emergency plan. Have a grab-and-go bag ready for every member of your family, including your pet. Make sure to include essentials like ready-to-eat food, drinking water, clothing, important documents, cash, and a copy of your emergency plan. Prepared BC is a great resource with easy-to-use guides and an emergency-ready planner to help with your planning. Another important part of preparedness is insurance. It's one of the best ways to protect your home and family in an emergency. Making sure you have insurance and understanding how to access your coverage can give you peace of mind when you need it most. Wildfire insurance is widely available in BC and often includes coverage to support you if you're evacuated. We recognize that sometimes people may need additional support when they're evacuated. Emergency Support Services provides temporary support to evacuees who need help with meeting their basic needs. If you live in an area prone to wildfires, I encourage you to create an ESS profile which can help you access supports online. Having to evacuate your home is always a difficult and emotional event. When there is an emergency, evacuation alerts and orders may be issued by your local government or First Nation. These decisions are never easy and are always a last resort to make sure that people are kept safe. I want to thank everyone for following the advice and leaving the area when an evacuation order is issued. To stay informed, bookmark Emergency Info BC and your local government website for verified emergency updates, including evacuation orders. We're heading into the BC day-long weekend, but it's got warming temperatures and drier conditions in many parts of the province. Thank you for doing your part to stay safe and alert this long weekend. I'll now invite Minister Parmar to share an update. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Minister Greene, and good morning, everyone. My name is Ravi Parmar. I'm British Columbia's Minister of Forests and Minister responsible for the BC Wildfire Service. Pleased to join my colleagues this morning to be able to provide an update to you on the 2025 wildfire season. As of this morning, there are 62 active wildfires across British Columbia, including 4 that have started in the last 24 hours. And 8 that were contained in the same period. As Minister Greene acknowledged, one of those fires includes the Cantilever Bar Fire south of Linton on the west side of the Fraser River. As Minister Greene acknowledged, the community of Linton, the Linton First Nations, and those surrounding to those that continue to live in uncertainty. But I'm really thankful for the leadership provided by the Mayor of Linton, by the Chief of the First Nations, as well as all those, including the Regional District, who will continue to step up, work alongside the BC Wildfire Service, EMCR, to be able to support communities in response. My colleague Cliff Chapman will be able to provide more of an update on that particular fire if there's any questions, but I recognize that it's a very challenging time and a lot of uncertainty for those folks living and impacted by that fire. In total, there have been 623 wildfires started this year, in comparison to 1,059 at this time last year and 1,522 this time in 2023. While many parts of BC have been fortunate so far with fewer fires and less devastation, we know that this can change in an instant. Right now, 98.5% of the hectares burned have been in the Prince George Fire Centre, primarily in northeastern British Columbia. And the rest of the province, we're seeing a season that's quieter than usual, but let me be clear. Don't let that lull into a false sense of security. Thanks to the quick, effective action from our BC Wildfire Service crews and local firefighters, we've been able to contain most fires to 4 hectares or less. But this is a delicate balance. We can never afford to relax. We've been fortunate this season so far, but we cannot forget the challenges we're seeing across Canada right now. We must keep our guards up. This relatively calmer season we have experienced so far is not just luck. It's also due to the incredible response of our BC Wildfire Service crews, local firefighters, and First Nations, supported by cooler weather and important provincial investments in efficiency. The province continues to strengthen the BC Wildfire Service with investments in modern equipment, enhanced support systems, and year-round capacity. We've partnered with UBC Okanagan to expand the province-wide wildfire detection camera network, improving early detection in remote areas. We've partnered with companies like Coulson, Canadian, and Contour to expand nighttime firefighting operations, including night vision imaging technology to allow for 24/7 firefighting capacity, the first time in Canada. We've increased funding for aviation readiness and response through additional contract funding for helicopters and air tankers. And even in the midst of this 2025 wildfire season, we're always preparing for future seasons. But it's also thanks to something else, the relentless, tireless commitment of our firefighters, our first responders, and everyone behind the scenes working to keep us safe. And we're not just protecting BC, we're doing our part to protect all of Canada. Last week, I shared that we sent over 40 resources to Yukon to assist with their fires. And I'm proud to share today that we've since sent an additional 120 resources to Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. For as long as we are in a position here in British Columbia, we will always be there to help our neighbors. To everyone across Canada, from coast to coast to coast, who is working on the front lines, thank you. Your courage is unmatched. To our BC Wildfire Service, whether you're in Victoria, in our depots, at our fire centers, in our zone houses, or out in the field, you are the backbone of our team. You are the reason we've been able to respond to these fires with speed and effectiveness. As we head into the BC Day long weekend, I want to join my colleague, Minister Greene, in urging everyone to stay alert and stay prepared. We're fortunate now, but conditions can change fast. In fact, we are noticing, especially walking here in Vancouver, that things are starting to heat up, and I expect it's going to start heating up across much of the province. The fires don't wait for us to be ready. They can strike when we least expect it. Be fire smart. Clean the debris around your home. Remove anything that could catch on fire. Know the fire prohibitions in your area. Check the BC Wildfire Service app regularly and report any wildfires you see. Even if you think they've already been responded to and reported, your eyes, your information can help our crews get ahead of a fire before it spreads. We must all take responsibility because this is bigger than any one of us. It's about the safety of our families, our communities, and the province we love. BC has been fortunate so far, but we can never let our guard down. Fires can spread quickly, and we must stay vigilant. Stay informed, stay prepared, listen to local authorities, and be fire smart. We have to take action today, so tomorrow we can look back and know we did everything we could to protect the people and the places we love. Thanks very much. I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Randene Neill, Minister of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship.
Thank you, Minister Parmar, and hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming today. As Minister of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, it's my job to talk about drought. And as the two other ministers also mentioned, the BC Day long weekend is approaching, and I would like us all to wish for a little bit of drizzle and rain, because we need it everywhere for the forest firefighters and the drought. So when I was a kid, we used to get rainy long weekends all the time, and now we get sunny long weekends. So maybe we need a couple rainy ones again. So just an update on how we're doing drought-wise across the province. There was some recent rain. It did help ease conditions in some areas, like parts of the southeast and central interior, and other regions are seeing drought conditions worsen. For example, my riding, the Sunshine Coast and the Lower Mainland have had hot, dry weather, and that is lowering stream flows in all of our rivers and creeks in those areas. In northern BC, rain is expected this week near Fort Nelson. Lighter rain is forecast for Haida Gwaii and the North Coast into the weekend, so that's good news. But the southern interior and the South Coast are expected to stay dry, as Minister Parmar suggested, and temperatures are on the rise again in much of the province. Low river flows are already putting fish and aquatic ecosystems at risk, and we've been seeing some fish stranding on Vancouver Island and the Lower Mainland as well, and fish salvages in a few creeks, places like Buck Creek in the Skeena-Bulkley Valley, Adams River and Coxsila on Vancouver Island, and Bonaparte in Cache Creek. Some rivers like Salmon and Bassett in the interior have improved after a recent rainfall, but those gains as of yesterday are all lost, and we're at critical low periods again. So we'll continue to work directly with local governments, with First Nations and communities as they implement water restrictions and prepare for a range of weather conditions. Industry, agriculture, First Nations, all key partners in managing our water supply, but all of us, each of us, every single one of us also has a role to use less water. This time of year, we typically see peak residential water use across the maybe think about doing that as well, particularly for the rest of the summer until we get some rains again. And always fix your leaky taps and toilets. That makes a huge difference. Those steps help protect aquatic life as well as stream flows and our long-term water supply, and they can help reduce the need for stricter action in many regions later on in the summer. So if you're out enjoying the water this weekend, I do just want to put a plug as well. We want you to help prevent the spread of aquatic diseases like whirling disease and zebra and quagga mussels. If you're transporting watercraft in BC, that includes a boat, a kayak, a paddleboard, you must stop at any open watercraft inspection station along your travel route. It's also illegal to transport your watercraft with the drain plug still in place, so don't forget to unplug that. That's part of the clean, drain and dry protocol before moving watercraft between bodies of water in BC. So I want to wish everyone a safe and healthy and wet BC Day long weekend next weekend. And thank you ahead of time for doing your part to help protect our watersheds in BC. And now I'd like to turn it back to Minister Greene.
Thanks. I will now turn it over to the moderator for questions.
Thank you, Minister. As a reminder for reporters on the phone, please press *1 to enter the queue. That's *1 to ask a question. Media will be limited to one question and one follow-up. For reporters in the room, please line up at the microphone provided. Make sure to provide your full name and outlet. We're going to start in the room today. Please go ahead.
Hi, Minister Greene. It's Kyrgianos with CBC News. My first question has to do with Linton, and perhaps you could speak to this. How concerned are officials right now about Linton and the fire in that area, given the area's heat and history?
Yeah, thanks very much. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Cliff Chapman, in a moment. But, in my conversations with the mayor and certainly with the chief and past weeks and months, deep concern. I think there's an awful lot of work that has been done over the course of the last number of years in wildfire mitigation work. But there were reports of ashes falling in Linton last night as an example. And so for those that have been working hard to rebuild their homes, those who are looking to continue to come home over the next number of years. Certainly a lot of concerns that I can imagine that they're facing. But I'll turn it over to my colleague, Cliff, to provide an update on the fire that started last night.
Yeah, thank you very much, Minister, and thank you for the question. I think first off, emotionally, we're very concerned for Linton, and we have staff that also live in that community that have also faced the challenges of that area and the multiple fires over the last number of years. As we've said, that valley usually sets the heat record when we're hot and dry in BC, and it is at the bottom of a valley that has mountains running up on multiple sides, and so fire likes to run up mountains. So it's a challenging fire for us. The terrain there is very steep. Last night, when we attempted to send our air tanker fleet to fight that fire, we were unable to deploy them, but that's why we were able to back that up using our helicopter fleet, including our night vision fleet, all through the night last night. So tactically and operationally, yes, we are concerned. We feel confident that we have the right number of resources on that fire. There are more resources showing up today to both do structure protection as well as tactically fight the fire. We have a great anchor point down by the river to be able to work from, and we are actively suppressing the fire from the outside in to try to knock down any hazard and the potential for spread. But obviously, as Minister mentioned, with ash falling in the village last night, it's a very scary fire for the community, and our people are part of that. And they are showing up, through the night last night and today to do everything we can to try to catch that fire at its current size or maybe slightly bigger.
Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up?
Across BC. 2 weeks ago, I think the Wildfire Services was talking about how there was a more optimistic outlook, I guess, in terms of the firefight at the beginning. Could you describe what has maybe changed in terms of weather conditions and fuel conditions across maybe the most pertinent fire centers in BC? How has that influenced the firefight? How has that firefight changed?
Yeah, really, really great follow-up. I think when we came on a couple of weeks ago, we did talk about the Prince George Fire Center quite a bit. And as Minister Parmar mentioned, a significant amount of our fire activity this year has been in the Prince George Fire Center. It's been in the North Peace, Fort Nelson area, Chetwynd area, Fort St. John. And I don't want to not speak to the challenges that they've faced up there, because it has been significant. There is a lot of hectares and there has been a lot of fire on the landscape up there. Saying that, they also received significant precipitation over the course of the last couple of weeks, as did other parts of the province. This heat wave that we're in, or this heat that we're experiencing over the next few days, is going to challenge our suppression efforts because of the conditions of the fuel. There still is underlying drought. There is still underlying drought within the fuels in BC, meaning the trees and the grasses. And so we are going to be challenged in an initial attack over the next 72 hours. But I feel confident that we have resources positioned across BC, initial attack, helicopters, our air tanker fleet, as well as additional unit crews, and our partnership with our structural and rural fire departments, as well as First Nation communities. We have resources across BC, and we feel confident that anything that starts in the next few days, that we have the resources to respond to it. But to answer your question, yeah, the weather is concerning, and fortunately it's the end of July and it's not the end of June or the end of May. And because with that, as we transition into August, I spoke to this a couple of weeks ago, the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer, our relative humidity starts to climb up sooner in the day, our temperatures start to drop. And so suppression tactics have a better chance of success as we get closer to mid-August, end August, and then obviously as we enter into September. So concerning for the short term. Long-term outlook, I still, as Minister mentioned in his opening, we have still had a below average fire season in 75% of the province or more. So we're still tracking that way, obviously dependent how the next few days go.
Do we have any more questions in the room? Please go ahead.
Hi, Travis Prasad, Global News. Couple of you might want to answer this. I'm just wondering, drought has become more of a factor, especially in recent years, and I'm just wondering how that's shifted the approach to wildfire prevention in the province. Has it made any difference in terms of controlled burns or things like that? Like, just how much of a factor is drought in all of this? It seems like a more recent element that we're now dealing with.
Thanks very much, Travis. And I'll certainly welcome my colleagues for their thoughts. I was in the Northeast just a couple of weeks ago, and as much as there was a lot of joy on their faces seeing the precipitation fall, even for the period that I was there, you're absolutely right. It certainly is not enough in terms of being able to deal with the challenges. The way that I like to describe the Northeast of our province right now, it's a natural disaster area. So much over the last number of years has been hit, and there's so many areas of the province where there have been fires in, say, 2018 and 2019, and it's reburning. There was a great video that the BC Wildfire Service put up that also talked about the blowdown that's happening, and getting a chance to be able to fly over that is significant. So I would say that we're continuing to ensure that we're using the best science to ensure that prescriptions are right in order to be able to do more cultural and prescribed burns. We're looking at ways to ensure that we're doing wildfire mitigation work to protect communities. And I would also add that there is a significant amount of work that happens in capacity to be able to support fires. We have, and Cliff can certainly touch on this, we have purchased water moving systems that we have the ability to be able to relocate in different parts of the province. I expect that we've used those in the Northeast this wildfire season as a way to be able to move water in areas where we need that support. But we're always going to use the best science moving forward to ensure that that we can continue to do our level best to ensure that we are providing the appropriate level of support in wildfire suppression, but also doing the important work of preventative maintenance as well, and as it relates to prescribed burns and cultural burns as well.
Answer the question.
If you have anything to add, that's totally fine. I can ask a follow-up. In terms of drought, again, I'm just wondering if there's any support, financial or technical, for communities or sectors that will be, acutely affected by this. I'm thinking farming is one of them, agriculture. Like, how do we ensure crop resilience in the face of drought?
We have online Jeremy Oden, who is with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, who can perhaps speak to how we're supporting agriculture in this time of drought.
Yes, our teams are working very closely with the agricultural community in affected areas. Just actually tomorrow, there's a town hall for the Cook-Sila Water Basin where we're going to be working with our colleagues in Waterlands Natural Resources Stewardship to work with the local community and the agriculture sector and make sure that they're prepared for potential impacts from low water levels in the water basin there. So we're working very closely with them and ensuring that they have all the supports they need.
And additionally, I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add that this is part of what we do as a province, is protecting and ensuring that our watersheds remain healthy and sustainable, not just for the next season, but forever. So one really great example is in the Nicola Valley, where ranchers and First Nations and the community actually got together because they realized that watershed is always runs really low every year. So you either have to turn the taps off for the farmers or let the fish dry up. So what they did is they really formed a partnership where they worked together once those levels got low to realize what are our priorities and what are our values. And for the last decade, they've been able to avoid any repercussions to farms or crops or cattle or any harms to the fish. So the key is really working together in community to really decide what your values are. And in the Cook-Sila, I think, as he just mentioned, there's something called an irrigation schedule that has just kicked in now, and that buys us another potentially month. That keeps those water levels in place to ensure that we don't have to worry about any repercussions to farmers.
For our next question, we're going to head to the phone lines. Our first question on the phone is for Michelle Bernero, CTV. Please go ahead.
There. Thank you for taking my question. It's just with respect to the Linton fire. We know it's suspected human cause. Is there any more information on what might have triggered this fire?
I'll turn it over to Cliff Chapman.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I'll start by saying our focus is primarily on suppressing the fire. Right now, we have sent our origin and cause investigation team to the site, and they will make the determination over the course of the next number of days. It's fairly complex to decide exactly how a fire ignited, so they'll be working through that process in the next couple of days. But our focus has primarily been on suppressing that fire, and we will report back when we know what the cause was.
Follow up.
I know this is being touched on, but I know heat is an issue there, and wind is always an issue in Linton. What is sort of the biggest challenge facing crews there right now?
Cliff?
Yeah, I love that question. I think, and you hit it first with the heat. I mean, our staff are on that hillside. They'll be going up and down that hillside, as well as other fire departments and other staff that are working with us. And so heat is going to be a challenge in that valley over the course of the next few days. I mentioned it in my last answer. Historically, Linton is where we set heat records in this province. So we have procedures in place to make sure our people are safe out there. From a tactical perspective, it is the landscape. So as I discussed earlier, you have community at the bottom of the valley, and you have these fairly steep slopes that have quite a bit of fuel on them. And so it's challenging terrain. Fire wants to run uphill during the day. It wants to run downhill during the night. So you don't always have the ability to suppress it exactly the way that might be seen as the easiest. So our staff are sizing that up. We're working our way through the flanks of the fire, trying to catch it at the head. But the challenge in that valley is heat, terrain, and as you mentioned, it is the wind. So today is supposed to be a fairly calm wind day across BC. The exception to that is that canyon. And it always seems to be the exception where we will see gusts of wind in that valley. So that's something that our people are very familiar with, and they're putting tactics in place to try to combat that weather.
Next question is for Tyler Olson, the Tyee. Please go ahead.
Hi, just Cliff, on kind of sticking with that theme. Can you talk about how the 2015 fire scar to the north of that fire may impact the fire's behavior and how crews respond?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So there's actually a couple of fires in that area. There is the one from 2015. I believe you're referencing Cisco. There's also another fire from 2 years ago, I believe it was. So the fire is on a couple of its flanks running into those old burns. When we talked about the prevention question and the cultural and prescribed fire part of the question, this is where we really need to continue to execute. And we put more fire on the land base this spring than we ever have before as an agency in terms of the number of projects. And it's to try to use things like old fires and make sure that they can't reburn. Make sure that the fuel that's within those old fire scars is taken care of, so that when a fire like the one that we're experiencing right now runs into that old fire, we can actually use it as a control line. We are finding that, given the conditions right now, that with those two old fires in the area, that the fire is knocking itself down. It is not finding the same amount of fuel to burn. So they have been fairly successful control lines for us so far, and we anticipate they will be. Again, that's only on two of the flanks of that fire, though. So there's still some priority work for us to do on the other flank.
And Tyler, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and thanks for the ministers. The fire started near rail line, and locals in Linton and up at Cooksbury last year have called for rail companies to do more to mitigate and prevent fires. What has the province done since 2021 to try to reduce the frequency of new fire starts along rail lines?
I'll be passing that to Cliff Chapman.
Yeah, thanks for that question. You know, we work closely with the rail companies, and we have meetings with them. They have to put forward what their resiliency plan is for the province of BC to make sure that their right of way is meeting the legislative mandate that is out there for them. So we work with the rail companies to try to work on active suppression techniques, and as well as just making sure that fires are called in immediately when they are started within that. Again, we do not know the cause of this fire at this point in time. We have our investigation team out there, but the question around the rail companies is we work hard with them to try to make sure that they're doing their diligence and really trying to protect the province of BC with their industrial activities on the rail.
And that's all the questions we have today. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.